Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for the Into the LightWeb podcast, and I am joined here in the $1 Million Lab series with Leah Remillét. And I'm so excited to share her story with you and to get into this conversation. Leah, tell people a little bit about what you do in the world and what you're all about.
I am a mompreneur. I love being an entrepreneur. And what I do is I help busy womenpreneurs untangle the chaos, scale their business, but on their terms. So, we know that us as women plus entrepreneurs, we wear so many hats, and we are still trying to be that great mom, have, clean laundry and dishes that are actually usable, and build these businesses that we love and we're so passionate about. And so I help women get more time back while making more money. And we do it through systems, through automation, through workflows, and just really getting the right things in the right places at the right time.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So how long have you been in business?
12 years now. That feels weird to say, but yeah.
Oh, awesome. And when did you first start in business? What was your kind of motivation for starting in business? Where was your kind of background before you got started in business?
So I think it's very similar to a lot of women. We feel this pull of like, I want something that like can just be my own creative outlet that I can do that maybe could contribute to our home and really help our family. So my timing was absolutely terrible. I had 3 babies when I started my business. I had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-month-old. So I mean, it was truly, I would not recommend that kind of timing, but I had the passion. I was excited and I wanted to go for it. Plus, we really needed it. My husband was in graduate school, and it would make a big difference for our family at that time if I could, contribute and help. I remember vividly, my first goal was if I could just bring in $1,000 a month. That felt like, wow, that would really change things for us. That would really help if I could bring in $1,000. And I think that's important to recognize, because our goals are going to grow as we go, or as we grow, right? Like my first goal wasn't, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make millions. My first goal was I'm gonna make $1,000, and that's really gonna help. And then we build on those. Once you see and you go, wow, I did it. I can do that. Okay, well, what if I brought in, I think my next goal was 4,000. And then the goal after that was 8, and then 10. And it just kept going and going. So I began this whole thing, my entrepreneur journey in photography. So I knew the core of what I wanted. I thought, okay, I want to be able to still be at home with the kids. None of them were, even in preschool yet. So I wanted to be able to be home with them, but be able to contribute to the family. And I, looked and I thought, well, I think photography would do that. I had not one single reason to believe I was any good with a camera. I had never held a professional camera. Like there was nothing that was like, you're probably going to be pretty good at this. Nothing. I just thought I saw some images on a blog, and blogging was brand new back then. It was still like the hot rage. And I saw some images, and they were lifestyle. So meaning like they were outside, they were outdoors. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't even need a studio. I could do that. Those are amazing. And my first thought was I wanted them. I wanted my family captured the way I had seen. And then my next thought was, well, I could create that and do it for others, because there's got to be others who want it. So I started in the photography world. I built my photography business to 6 figures within a little less than 18 months. And I knew I wasn't that good with a camera. I mean, I was, learning and trying to get better every day, but what I intuitively understood, and where my background was business. I understood business. So I understood the components of marketing and pricing and selling and building this experience that got my clients telling their friends. That was the part that I got. And so I thought, I've got to share this with other women. I need to show them how I'm doing this, because there's too many out there who, and maybe some listening can relate to this. Like, your talent is there, your passion, your desire to serve and to make a difference. It's all there. And you're like, why aren't they coming? Like, where are these clients? And so I built a course in 2010 that taught photographers how to build a 6-figure business. And then that course went on to be a 7-figure course for me. And we got to change lives and help women all over the world, which was so incredible. And then from there, it has just kept growing. I started being asked to speak at more and more conferences and conventions and retreats that were for all kinds of women who were in business. And over time, I really shifted into wanting to just help all women, because I knew these foundational principles, they translate. I've been able to do it in photography. I've done it with a course. I've done it with coaching. I think we have 5 different divisions where we've been able to do it over and over and over in my company. And so just getting to show women, this is possible. You can love your life. You can be the mom, the wife, the friend, the daughter, the aunt, the sister that you dream of being. And you can have this passion. You can have this business that is really successful, but it needs to be so intentional. So that's kind of the log, how it started.
What we're doing. I feel like, that it is the having it all and kind of balancing it all, and as well, because it isn't always easy to build a business that's supportive of your life. And I think many people fall down the rabbit hole of working harder and harder and harder and harder. And it's not something that you've navigated yourself, having that young family, building the business and everything like that. Because I think a lot of women get to that point where they start to feel a little bit crispy around the edges, and they start to feel a little bit burnt out. And I know that that's something that a lot of women, I myself had a massive burnout, which I share quite openly. And I think a lot of women have faced that energy.
Absolutely. And that really was a shift for me. So I too had that same experience. You just don't know what you don't know. And I like everyone hearing this, give yourself grace. You don't know what you don't know. We're doing the best we can with what we have so far, right? I mean, going all the way back to my first goal was $1,000 a month, because I didn't know what was in me, what I was capable of beyond that. That seemed like a stretch at that point. And when I first was look at my first goal. My first goal was $1,000. When all of a sudden it's not $1,000, it's $12,000, $15,000 a month, and I still have babies. Believe me, I was not doing it right. I had absolute pandemonium, chaos happening all around me. And I was so burnt out. I was so exhausted. And I didn't know what to do. When you think about the traditional how to manage everything, it's like, well, you just got to remove more stuff off your plate. I had gotten to the point where there was nothing else that I could remove. I couldn't stop feeding my children. I couldn't stop taking care of my clients. I had stripped everything else out of my life except for the absolute necessities. And there was not enough time. Even still, there was not enough time, to the point where I stopped sleeping. I would put the kids to bed at 8. I would go into my office. My husband would, be working or studying and be like, hey, do you want to come watch a movie? I'd be like, oh, I should be there in a minute. I would never get there. He would end up falling asleep, and I would work and work often until 4 or 5 in the morning. Literally on many, many nights, it was my head hitting the keyboard that would drag me to bed. And then I would be back up at 7 because my kids were up. And I would do that 3 to 4 nights in a row. I'd have one night where I'd try to get 6 to 7 hours, and then I would do it again, to the point where I collapsed. I had taken the kids to the zoo. I would take them to these different places so that I would try to subside some of my guilt. of not feeling like I was really, present and doing a good job. So we had all these memberships for the zoo and the science center and all these different places. And so every Wednesday I would take him to a different one of these places. So we were at the zoo. I can remember it vividly. We were in the alligator exhibit, and I've got two in the stroller, one holding my hand. We're looking at this alligator, and all of a sudden I can feel that everything is closing in around me. And so I blacked out, woke up on a stretcher. My kids are being left in the zoo completely alone as they're watching their mom be taken away in an ambulance. And that was my moment of, this has to stop. And I knew it was my fault. And I'm not saying that in a self-loathing. I'm just saying I recognize that I brought myself here, that because I didn't have boundaries, I love boundaries. I think that there's a bad rap that we think boundaries are going to restrict us, and really boundaries can give us the freedom. They can give us those.
I absolutely agree. Boundaries hold us. Boundaries hold us, and they don't restrict us. They hold us instead, and they also give you a container in which your energy is contained, so it's not floating everywhere,
Yes.
You're trying to give it all out everywhere. I had a similar story, although I wasn't quite as dramatic at the zoo, but I collapsed at home with multiple organ failure. And then my recovery from that was much, much bigger. It was a recovery that didn't take days, months. It was a recovery that took years to build back up. And I had built 4 separate 6-figure businesses, and then I worked in them all for a decade, and then hit my burnout. And then I kind of kept one of my businesses. I kept my spiritual events company. But it's this kind of treadmill. So once you hit this burnout and this exhaustion and this very dramatic getting taken in the ambulance, what is your next steps here? What's happening?
I think, and this will be interesting to see if you kind of recognize this too. One of the first things that was an aha for me is I was down and I had no choice about it, and my business still survived. So this mentality that I had of, I need to be doing it all, I'm everything, it can't run without me, that is
the world was going to stop spinning.
Yes.
If I stopped doing.
Right.
The world was going to stop spinning if I stopped doing. And then of course it was like, I was in hospital for quite some time. So by the time I got out of hospital, it was like, oh, well, color me surprised. This whole business thing is still alive and kicking and not actually imploded completely. And the world didn't stop spinning. And that, in a way that was very hard as well, because you had bought that lie. You told yourself so completely and utterly, and suddenly you're confronted with the fact that it's complete BS, and you're like, oh, okay. And that was a real kind of like reality call. And I think, and I had exactly the same feelings. Like, I had brought myself here. I had done this to myself. And full knowing that there wasn't anybody else. It was the pressure that I placed on myself. And I feel, like that's one of the reasons why I share the story of my burnout so openly, because if I can help another entrepreneur like not do that, then it's all good.
Yes.
It will have been worth it,
Absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to speak at a lot of different events. And one of the things that I started to see, and why I became so passionate on, where I really help entrepreneurs, where I help women, is let's get you organized. Let's build the systems. Let's let you feel really confident when you're in your business, and really confident when you're at home, and get these in the right order so that you can make that money. Because I'm going to admit, I really like making money, right? Like, it's pretty nice to not have to worry about those things, but simultaneously not at the expense of what matters most, who matters most, right? And when I would be speaking at these events, my absolute favorite part of getting to speak at any of these is at night. It's when it's all over and everybody's just together talking, and the walls start coming down. And one of the things I started recognizing and realizing, and this was after my burnout, this was me like coming out on the other end, building the systems, learning. So I went from working, I have no idea how many hours, because I wasn't trying to track and know how much I was actually working, because I didn't want to admit that, right? So I don't know, but 80 hours a week, maybe. I don't know, but an insane amount. Basically, I was never not working. Even when I said I wasn't working, I was working, right? And so I went from that.
Bring it home, or the thought process is constantly there.
Yes. And I'm sneaking away all the time to just check on something, to fix something, to work on something. So I went from that to 15 to 20 hours a week, and I did not lose a penny of our profit. That was mind blowing. Like, I was like, oh, okay, wait. I was constantly being busy, but not productive. I was, all in, all over, everywhere, but I wasn't intentional. So once I learned, okay, wait, how do I be productive? How do I be intentional? And so, I'd be at these conferences, and all the women would start talking, and inevitably the walls come down, and they start sharing that, we're all in this together. We're all feeling the same angst, the same anxiety, the same guilt, the same pressure, the same exhaustion. They were all feeling those same feelings of, oh my gosh, I am trying to be the best at all of this. And I don't even know what else to give. And I feel like I'm a failure at all of it. And it was the fellow women speaking with me. It was the women attending. It was, the women that everyone's putting on the pedestal. And when she's talking with me one-on-one, she's breaking down and admitting, like, tell me how you're doing this, because I'm dying. Like, that I'm worried about my marriage. I'm worried about my relationship with my children. I feel like I'm constantly angry. So, I want to say that because I think we first have to understand you're not alone. People don't want to share it because they're so worried. The perception on social media is that everybody's got it together. So no one wants to raise their hand and go, I'm the hot mess. Like, am I the only one here? Right? So I started recognizing and seeing, oh, this is across the board. It's across industries. It's across, like, this is when you are trying to be all of these different things. Those statistics about we as women, we're still doing all the things at home too, right? Like, we're still the primary person making the doctor's appointments, doing the grocery shopping, taking care of the chores and things, and we're running companies and businesses. And so just knowing, like, this is something that we're in together, especially as women entrepreneurs, women with careers who are really trying to grow and build. And so knowing that, it's like, okay, if we can talk about this, be honest about it, and then we need our own kind of systems. After this all happened for me, I started studying systems. I became obsessed with, okay, you can kind of tell I'm an all-in person. I go crazy for whatever, right? It can be a blessing and a curse. And so I went all in. And one of the things I really realized is a lot of what's being taught is being taught by men, or it's being taught for a corporation. And so I needed to take all of it. And then I started testing. And then I started, once it was working for me, testing with my clients to be like, okay, wait, but what actually works for women entrepreneurs? Because we're a different beast. Like, it's a different animal, what we are doing. So.
Definitely. I love that. What was the mindset shift like, going from working these 80 hours to 15 to 20 hours, obviously not losing any profit? So that was cool. Was there a feeling of, like, I don't want to put words in here, but like a feeling of kind of like, I had a bit of like, I had a feeling myself personally when I went from working like crazy hours to like more normal. I had this feeling of embarrassment. Like, I was embarrassed, but not not to admit it to anyone else, but like to myself, that I was like, my God, I can't believe that I put myself through that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. For me, I think, I've learned a lot and really studied this since, but I had felt a lot of shame. Okay, this might sound a little odd, but hear me through for everyone listening. Okay. There is shame and there is guilt. I am actually kind of a fan of guilt. I don't mind guilt, because guilt is saying like, wait, this isn't really you. This isn't who you are. And it gives you a check, right? Like when guilt comes in, I can go, okay, I'm feeling this because I'm better than this. This isn't me. This isn't aligning with my core why, who I am, what I believe. And I can course correct. I look at guilt as a compass. Shame is different. Shame is saying you are the problem. You are not good enough. You cannot be better. You know, when we're thinking about that abundance mindset versus scarcity, shame is in scarcity. Guilt can be in abundance if we learn how to work with it. And I had felt deep shame and just embarrassment. And I was terrified when I was making those changes because while we did not lose any profit, I didn't know that at the beginning. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? Like I just knew I had to change things. And I had to take really dramatic steps with myself that I didn't admit for a long time because I did feel ashamed and embarrassed, but I started setting hours for myself of, you know, when I was going to work, not allowing myself just whenever I'm needed, I'm there, which was all the time. And so I would have to power down my computer because I had a home office. So I needed to power down the computer completely, almost like, an addict recovering, because if it was on, I was too tempted to sneak back in. But if it was completely powered down, if I was trying to sneak back in, I literally had to wait for the whole thing to boot back up. So, you know, there were things like that I put in place for myself, like where I was like,
yourself first and foremost.
Yeah, like I really have to, you know, we have to understand, you don't form a habit in a day. You're not going to break a habit in a day. I didn't become an absolute workaholic in a day. It was little by little. It was the excitement of results, you know, like you're like, oh my gosh, the more I work, the more money I make, the more accolades I get, the more people are, you know, telling me how awesome I am. And that felt really good and exciting. And very honestly, it was the first time in my whole life I had experienced that. So it was addicting. It was so exciting to have people say, oh my gosh, tell me what you're doing. This is so amazing. Getting the emails all the time of, Leah, I have to tell you, you know, I just bought my dream car. We just paid off debt. We just went on our dream vacation. I'm out earning my husband, you know, whatever it was, these exciting moments in their life where they were feeling empowered and like, I couldn't imagine this possible. It drove me to want to do even more, to help even more women, which is wonderful, but not at the expense of those who matter most. And I got lost on that for a while. And I'm so grateful that, you know, I learned it. It was painful. It was hard. But now my whole mission is I want to help as many women as I can. Like, yes, you can have it. You can have it. But I promise you, if that success is at the expense of your marriage, of your kids, of your health, of those things, it will not be worth it. You will not look at the end of your life and be like, oh, I'm so glad I made $1 million. But I lost everything else. And so we got to figure out a better way. We got to put them in the right order. And if that means it takes a little bit longer, it's a little slower, that is okay. It doesn't have to mean that, but it's okay if it does. And when we learn to get those right things in the right order at the right time, what is happening is often you don't know what you don't know.
Did you find that as well, like in your business, that you were doing all the right things, but then once you started bringing in these systems, you realized you weren't doing them in the right order, which was actually creating more work for yourself? And actually by doing them in the right order and getting that, you know, like doing it this way, it streamlined things, and then it just required so much less effort.
Oh, 100%. Because so often, especially in all the work I've done with, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of women all over the world in helping them. When I start digging into their business, they're doing the right things, but they haven't set the foundation. So they haven't gotten those foundational things. In fact, I actually have a free resource anyone's welcome to grab if they go to leahremillét.com. So LEAHREMI.
Notes.
Yeah, LLET.com, and it's /free gift. I have this goal getter success mapping. And what I was really seeing was they hadn't done the clarity work to get really clear on their why, the problem that they solve, who they're solving it for, what is the message that they're trying to share, how do we position our service or product or whatever it is as a solution to a specific problem. They hadn't figured all that out. So they're spending hours and hours and hours trying to market, trying to blog, trying to, do social media posts, do all the different things, but it wasn't creating the results it could have if they'd gotten those foundational things set first.
Yeah.
So once
In
that
my, yeah, I love this because it is the foundational pieces. And I find that a lot with my clients, it's the foundational pieces. And, one of the things that I also find is that people don't know the difference between what is busy work and what is profitable work.
Yes.
So, for instance, responding to a customer or potential client, that's profitable work because that can lead to a sale. But writing a blog post, not always profitable work. It doesn't always lead to revenue in the company. And what people do is they often prioritize the busy work over the profitable work. Whereas if they just focused on the profitable work and added in the busy work, like the blog posts and all the other things, the extras, when they had the time, as opposed to that was the main focus. So I see so many people really kind of like trying to do it all. They need to blog, they need to have the podcast, they need, and it's like, no, okay, let's look at this. What is actually bringing in the sales?
Yes.
And then, let's split that. Let's create a page and say, okay, what's all the tasks that you do and what column do they belong in? Is that profitable work or is that busy work, making you very, very busy, not making you profit? And I find that sometimes when you just have something so practical and clear, that clarity immediately can increase the revenue of a company or a business, because they now know, oh, well, these are actually my revenue making activities. And logic basically just says, do more of them, you make more revenue. But I think so many people are in this kind of quagmire of like, they think they have to do all the things.
Mm-hmm. They think they have to do all the things, and a lot of what they're doing isn't as effective as it could be because they haven't learned the tools yet to optimize them, or because they haven't gotten that clarity work of getting really clear on those foundational pillars. If I'm trying to build a house, I need to have a really solid foundation, and I need to think through ahead of time, what kind of house am I building? If I'm just pouring down foundation and I haven't thought through how many bedrooms I want, how many stories I want, it's going to crumble. But if I take some time and I say, so this resource that we have, there's a section that's for clarity, for growth, and for profit. And understanding, when you're thinking about your growth, you really need to kind of look at, what am I trying to build? And that comes to, why am I trying to build it? Right? Then we can understand and make sure that those things are in alignment, so that we don't build something that, from the outside, oh, it looks real fancy and awesome, but on the inside you're dying, and it's, everything feels like it's
I think
falling
there's
apart.
a lot of women that are building the awesome thing on the outside. On the inside, there's the disconnect. And one of the things that I find is really allowing my intuition to guide the process more, and really moving from an intuitive part. When you had your sort of collapse, did you find that you literally naturally just became maybe more intuitive, or allowed that piece of you to guide you more? Because what I found was that I was often overriding my intuition because I wasn't even listening to my body. So I was overriding, well, I'm tired now. Well, no, just push through. Whereas once the burnout had hit for me, it was like I didn't have the option to say, well, let's just push through, because I wanted to see my kids grow up. So for me, it was like, no, I've got to listen. And the more I listened to my internal systems, the more intuitive I became.
I love that. So for me, I'm a woman of faith. And I feel like I had, those moments of trying to warn me, trying to tell me, and I wasn't listening. And then, you're laying in bed and you aren't allowed to get out of bed, and you suddenly have some time to reflect and to rest. And I think it's important for our kids to have boredom, because that's where they get to use their creativity and their imagination. It's also important for us adults to allow boredom. And if we're not careful, we can remove any time of quiet, stillness, just being able to recognize. I mean, in a world of Netflix binging and everything is available on our phone and your phone is near you 24/7 and everything else, you can truly go in a day without ever having silence and being able to hear and to listen and to recognize those thoughts, those promptings, those feelings, that intuition. And so we need to make space for it. I think I keep a notepad in my shower. I have for years and years. You can buy them on Amazon. They're awesome. I love it. And it's because so often I'm just kind of thinking, you're in there and I'll get some idea. And so I want to write it down because I don't want to forget it. I think that one of the reasons why the shower is such a great place is because I'm still like, there's no distraction. It's just me and the shampoo and conditioner and my thoughts, and trying to create more spaces like that. I almost never, the only thing I'm ever listening to in the car is a book. If it's not a book, I am in silence because I want that time to just be able to think and to reflect and to have those moments to be able to hear and recognize, what ideas or intuition or thoughts or promptings might be coming to me.
I love that. I think it's so important. I meditate every day, and that is my quiet time. That's my time to go really inward and to go into the silence and to hear what it has to say, because I think one of the things is that we think the silence is silence, but actually it has a lot to say when we take the pause, we take the breath, we take the moment and bring ourselves in. Do you do a lot of work on your mindset? Is this a big thing for you, or is this not something that you've been, where do you fall on the scale of mindset?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think mindset is everything, truly. I mean, if you are trying to scale up, if you're trying to reach that next level, and in this case, we're talking about 7 figures, when you are wanting to reach, if the first goal is 6 figures, if it's 7 figures, if it's 8 figures, if it's 10, I don't care, but it is about our mindset. You have to be able to see and recognize that it is possible. And at the very beginning, it might be a little questionable for you. You might be like, oh, is it? And so you need to be surrounding yourself with as much things as you can that place in you and help you to believe and to trust that it really could be. We all talk about and hear about the 5 people that you surround yourself with, but it is true. The way that you show up, it is true. If you want to be successful, you need to start showing up as the person you want to be today. Get dressed, get out of your yoga pants, put on shoes, like put yourself together, show up the way you want to be, in the way you want to be received, the way you want to be treated. We think about branding. All branding is perception. It's just the way that somebody else perceives you. And what I love about branding is that we can affect the way that someone perceives us by the way that we show up, the way we communicate, the way we talk, the way we interact, that we get to craft the way someone else is going to perceive us, our businesses, everything. So start recognizing that you have power there. So show up the way you want to be seen and surround yourself with people that help you recognize what's possible. And I mean, what's amazing is, oh my gosh, it's incredible. We can do that through podcasts like this. We can do it through books. We can do it through, groups that you're a part of. Hire a coach, like have people who have done it, who have already gotten to where you want to be, and get yourself surrounded by them. There are so many iconic, incredible books. Have those in your ears all the time. Have these podcasts in your ears. Just make that decision. And then the other thing that I think with that mindset that is important to consider and to really think about is commit to do the things you say you're going to do. I think one of the biggest things that holds people back is they get the inspiration, they get the excitement, they're feeling it all. Maybe after this episode, we're able to help some incredible people say, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. This is my time. But then tomorrow, and maybe it's not even tomorrow, maybe it's next week, you're not going to want to as much. All that excitement, all of that motivation, it's going to dwindle a bit. And that's when you have to decide, am I someone who does what I say I'm going to do or not? If you commit, if you say, I will do what I say I'm going to do, and this is in your marriage, it's in your home, it's with your kids, it's in your business, it's with your the people on your team, it's with your clients. Do what you say you're going to do. And that in and of itself can change your life. I mean, it can change your whole trajectory.
I love that. I love that. And I think that that's so powerful and potent when we understand that, it is that follow through. It is that being, I feel like it's one of like, be true to your word.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's that from the it's been generations of, right? Like, true to your word is your bond, do what you say you're going to do. And we've gotten away from that. We've gotten into this culture of like, oh, I meant to, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I say I will, and I'll back out. And that's not integrity driven. If we really want to build something great that feels great, it is going to be connected to integrity and purpose. And that's when we find our power. And so, recognizing that starts with just doing what you say you're going to do. If you commit, of course, there are things that happen that are out of our control, but we all know what we mean. If you say you're going to do it, be that person that people can count on, that they can trust.
I love that. I love that, Leah. Tell people, because we need to wrap up. It's gone so fast. But tell people where they can find you on the internet. And thank you so much, because I think this was such a powerful conversation. There's so many juicy nuggets in this. But tell people where they can find you online and what social media channels are your favorite ones to find you on.
Okay. All right. So LeahRemillét.com. I know Remillét is a doozy. So REMILLET.com. And that's going to be my handles, Instagram. That's really kind of my place. I'm on Facebook. I'm on the other ones, but that's where I really am, is Instagram. So Leah Remillét is my handle. And then, for anyone who wants to go through some of the work that I do with my coaching clients, there's that free gift, LeahRemillét.com/free gift. And I have a group coaching membership for womenpreneurs called Growth Getters. They can learn about that on our website too, but really just start by, let's just chat over email to begin with. So that's available, or on Instagram. That's fun too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leah. That has been amazing to have you on the show.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me and having me.